So last week we were discussing on how to write it to the console and reading from the console. So I hope you can hear me and see the shared screen. Okay. So we were discussing this first question, and you just have to wait until this Ubuntu loads. Sorry for the delay. Okay, the system loaded. So we'll start from the point that we stopped. So first, I think you may have already opened up your terminal. So if you haven't, open your terminal. So just change your directory to the directory that you have stopped. That means you have saved your work last week. So I'll change directory to desktop. Workshop 2, and I'll open, I think, a note 2. Okay, this is the point that we stopped last week. So we were trying to print this string hello world to the console. We were trying to print this string hello world to the string. So before printing a text to a screen, I said that we have to store that in the program in the data section, which is the initialized variable section. So we have to store it as a variable. Variable means it's a label containing address of the memory location which this string is stored. And I said this 10 is the line feed or the new line character. That means it asks the console to go to a new line, and at the end when you terminate a string you have to enter this null character. So we did up to this point. So today we'll start from the point we stop, right? So all the program, as I said, begins at the start label. So make it a habit, you keep a tab when you write the code inside this assembly script. Okay, so for printing, we have to make RAX register set to 4. In the first program, I said the RAX must be set to 4. 4 stands for the printing call. That means system write. So what we are going to do is we are going to call interrupt 128. That is the interrupt which we ask the CPU to execute. When it is executed, it will check all of the RX, RBX, RCX, and RDX registers. So for the writing call, it will check then RBX register. So I said that if the value stored in the RBX register is 0, it is the input, standard input, which is keyword. If it is 1, standard output, it is the screen. Since we are going to print the string to the screen, we have to set this one to 1. So 1 is standard output. Screen. And RAX is the first register, RBX is the second one. That means accumulator base. And then the third register it will check is RCX. So in here, for the RCX, we have to pass the variable. That means the string to print in screen. So the address of this variable, which is going, so this text label contains the address of the this hello world text, which is contained in the memory. So we are going to pass that this text label. So text label has the address of this string. So this text label has the address of the string. And also we must find out what is the size of this. That means this string. So we are going to print this string hello world and two another characters. So we can manually count this one and write, but it is not a good programming practice. So we can calculate the size of this string and store in a another variable. So I'll say the variable name as size1, and I will equate that to, that means it is equal to dollar. Dollar means current address. Dollar means current address. The size of this text label. So the current address is the point. So at this point, the program is in this address. So this address means the address just after this one, because these are stored one after the another. So first, this text label has some address value. For example, say the virtual memory address is 5. If this is 10 bytes, so the present address will be 15. Present address will be 15, for example. And if we deduct this address value, so I said, for example, this is 5 and this is 15. So this present address minus this address will be the size of this string. 15 minus 5, 10. So this is present address minus this one. So we can like that calculate the size of this string, and that size of the string must be passed as an argument to the RDX register. That means it should be stored in RDX, in data register. In data register, it should contain the size of the variable. So it is, I stored it one in size one. The size of the variable have to be passed. To make the code understand clear, I'll just insert some tabs. Okay, so what will this do? So we are going to set these 4 registers with this value. So RX will contain 4. That means it identifies what is the system call. What we are going to do, we are going to write to the screen. What we are going to write is this text, and the size of this one is in RDX register. So when we call this interrupt, it will go and check, okay, what is the value in RX register. It will see that it is 4. Okay, then write to the screen this text with this size. That's what it's going to do. But not only that, after that we have to terminate the program just like we did in the first program. So when this interrupt is called, value after this interrupt is called, the values of these registers are not the same like that one. Mostly this RAX, value of RAX will not be 4 anymore. So when if we are needed to terminate this program, we have to specifically change this to 1 and RBX to 0 and call this interrupt again. Why we are setting these registers again? Because these are not the values. In this case, these are also not the values that we have specified earlier, and these values are also not longer there after this interrupt is called, because it is going to change these values to some other values after this interrupt is called. So now we have terminated this program. Okay, this is the program to write this string to the string. So we'll check first we'll check whether we have the make utility in this one. Okay, in this one only this one is there. So what you can do is just copy and paste the make utility that you created in the first program. Otherwise it will consume more time. This make file, copy and paste to your current directory. And just now call make. Yes, the name of the file I changed to a02.asm. So just open again make, edit, make file. And in this make file, the name of change the name of this file to a02.asm. So I explained this make file last week. So we are going to create the executable file from object file, and we are we call this link command for that. And before that, the object file is created from the source file A01. Sorry, this one also should be changed to A02 here. .asm from this one, and we call this nested. And for this code I'll explain lastly, so no need to worry about that one at this moment. So go back to your terminal and call make again. Okay, the files just compile. If you list, you can see the executable file has been created in the present directory. So what we have to do is we have to run the executable file in this directory exe.x. So you can see the required text hello world was printed to the screen, then the program was terminated. So if you need to refer to the code again, I'll just open it so that you can refer. So what we did was we allocated this hello world string inside with the address of this text label, and we use this keyword db, that is defined bytes, for doing that. Then we calculated the size of this text label or this set of strings by reducing the current address from the address of this variable. Then we get the size and we pass that on, and we got it as the interrupt. We call this interrupt to write it to the string screen, and we exit again. So that is the first exercise that you have to do. So if you have finished this one, then we can go for the second exercise. So as I have told you before, just make it a habit to not to overwrite the same files, but to make new directories for new programs. So I'll copy and paste it here. And rename it with the new name. Right, so we'll shift from this directory, change directory to desktop, or previous directory double dot is also okay. Then we'll change directory inside this directory. And we'll open the editor. Right, so we'll see, have a look at the second exercise. These exercises I have already shared with you. That means I gave to the module coordinator, and he told that he will share these exercises with you. I already shared the first 3 lecture videos also with you. I have given them to the coordinator. You can ask for them from your coordinator. So I want to show you this one. Okay, I want to show you the exercise that we have to do. So it asks us to write an assembly program which asks the user to enter his name and display it on the console. So for that program, first we will print this string to the screen. Enter your name. First we have to print this string, then the user will enter his name, whatever the name from the standard input, that is keyboard. From the keyboard, then he'll press enter. Then in a new line, the program should print hi, the name of the person entered. That means the same name entered should be printed again. So we can modify this program, the same program, to get that output. We'll modify the same program, but don't do in the same one. Just as I have explained, create a new directory and do it. Copy and paste a new directory, then change the directory of your console to inside this directory and do this. So for this one, I'll delete these comments, since in your previous program you have already these comments. Okay, the first text that we want to print is enter your name. Enter your name. I hope you can hear me and see the screen. Okay. Enter your name, and after enter your name, I don't want it to go to a new line. I want to enter my name at the same place. So I will not insert the new line character here. I will not print the new line character, but I will terminate the string here. So enter your name. Then after that, in the second line, after the user enters his name, it should print hi, the name. So I'll make this text label 1, and this is size 1, and this one text label 1. And I want to insert another string to print hi and the name. So I'll just make it text label 2 and define bytes, then the string. Only this one. But when I'm going to start this string, now I want to insert my new line character at the beginning, because it should go to a new line after this one when we print this string. And we must terminate the string with null character. And the size of this string can be calculated just like this one. Just copy and paste this one here. And rename this one with another name. I'll rename it as size 2. So that is an initialized variable. So this is how we allocate bytes for initialized variables. So the text that we are going to print to the screen, they can be considered as initialized variables. But what about the value that we enter from the standard input? So a name can be a variable, a string, which can vary from person to person. And also when the program is beginning, that variable is unknown. So when the program begins, so for example, we have to have a variable known as name. We have to have a variable known as name, but when the program is running or begins, the value of that variable is unknown. So such variables are known as uninitialized variables. So even in your high level program knowledge, you might have come across these things. Uninitialized variables, that means the value of that variable is not known at the beginning of the program. They will be set to some values when the program is running. So those are known as uninitialized variables. For declaring such variables, we can have another section known as section dot BSS. So BSS stands for block starting with symbols. So in this section, uninitialized variables are declared. Uninitialized So I said this section is for declaring uninitialized variable. So in this program, the user input, the name is also such a variable which will be set to some value when only after the user input the name of the variable, right? So we'll say, we'll give the name of that variable as name, or you can use any other label for this name. So this is a label which contains address of this uninitialized variable. So here in the initialized section, we use the keyword db, define bytes, and here we have to use another keyword known as reserve bytes, RESB. RESB stands for reserve bytes. So the name can be lengthy for some people. So I'll just allocate 40 bytes. 40 bytes, but it is not initialized. So that is the difference. Okay. We then declared a variable known as name and allocated 40 bytes for that one. So we have declared all the variables that we need for writing this program. And we have already printed this string, enter your name. Then we have to get the user input. So in the first program, I said that for getting the user input, the system call number that you have to store in RAX is nothing but 3. So get RAX to 3. And the value in the RBX should be, now it is not the standard output, now it is standard input, 0. 0 is standard input. What is standard input? Keyboard. And 3 stands for sysread. And the other is almost the same. What we have to do is copy RCX and give the value, the label of the variable. So here we are going to get name. So we have to pass that address here, and the size for the data register RDX. The size is 40. We know that size. Size is 40. And you have to call the interrupt. Even if you call this interrupt for this one, you have to call this interrupt again and again, for writing, for reading, and again for writing you have to call this interrupt again and again. So now we have completed the first step. We have enter your name and entered the value of the name, and inside this variable, it is there now inside this variable, but we have to print that one again to the screen. So what I'll do is, to save time, I'll just copy and paste this one. And I'll change the name of the variables appropriately. So now we want to print this text label 2. So the system call number is same, and we are going to write to the output, and here it should be text label 1. No? So make this correction, it should be text label 1 here, and size 1. And here it should be text label 2 and size 2. Should be text label 2 and size 2. And here what we are going to do is, now we have this name. After this hi, then we have to print the name. So in this one, we are not going to input, we are going to output. Output means standard output is 1. And the name of the variable is name, and size is 40. These are same. But so what is the difference between this one and this one is, here we input a value from the user and store in a variable, and here we take that value from the variable and output it to the screen. So here we input it inside the name, and here we output it from the stored variable name. So this is the whole program for the part 2. You have to call this. So 128 interrupt has been called 5 times here. 3 times for writing, 1 time for getting the user input, and 1 time for exiting the program. So I hope you can follow up with me. So in your machines, type these expressions exactly like this. Then with understanding, of course, then you will be able to get the output of the program. So I'll just demonstrate the output. So since we have copied the previous one, just again call make and execute. So it will ask what is your name. I'll enter my name, and don't press enter, press Ctrl D. If you press enter, it will go for additional line. So you can terminate that any input that you have entered by pressing Ctrl D, Ctrl plus D. And then it will print the third one, this one, hi. Then this interrupt will be called, and from the stored name, this one will be called, and it will print the value stored inside name to this output, then it will exit. So you can see whole of these are executed here. First enter your name, then user will input, and once you press Control D, it will be stored here. Then I will be displayed using this one. Then the name stored will be output to the screen from this one, and it will exit. So that is what you have to learn about writing to the screen or the standard output and getting input from the standard input, which is keyboard, using assembly. And you need not to write this much of code if it was a high level program language. It will be just one line or two lines in this case. But inside assembly we have to go for low level, and we have to specify the register values. We have to call interrupts and store the system calls arguments in the registers, and we have to call variables for that one, initialized and uninitialized ones. So that's the difficulty in low level stuff like this. So I have so if you have finished, I hope you are clear with this. If you have anything to ask from this, you can ask me now. Right, it seems that you are clear with this. So we'll go for the next section. Okay, that is compile one more time. Okay, I'll compile. So I compiled using the make utility. If you are not fit with that one, you can even use the normal utility. So how I compile those, I just called make. I just call make because inside this folder I had make file, and in the make file GLE. So if I show you the make file, it's nothing but this. So make sure you have correctly renamed this one, because we have the source file renamed as A02. So if you renamed with another name, so you have to rename this one exactly like this. A02.asm. This is the targeted file. This is the source file, and you have to. So I explained these things last week, but I'll explain again since you requested. So this is the netpride assembly command asm. This is format, and if you have Windows or 32-bit operating system, you have to call Win32. Otherwise, you can compile with Win64. And this is the name of the object file. Object file is containing the machine language instruction, but not executable. And this list file is optional, I told you. It is going to link for the purpose of programmers to debug. It contains both the machine language instructions and the assembly language instructions with uh, virtual memory addresses. And from this one, from the created object file, it is going to create the executable file with this link. And we have to specify the executable file name here and the source file name. Here the source file is object file. So you can create this make file, and the name of the make file should be exactly like this. Otherwise, you will get compile errors. Exactly like this, and save it in the current directory. Save it in the current directory and call make. And then you can execute. So that's it. Okay. Having done that, we have to go for a new section. So I have shared this one with you. If you have not got that one, I'll show you that one again. So we'll come to this workshop 3 exercises. So first so in your high level programming languages, in your first years in under computer programming module, you might have come across if else structure. So that is a logical structure. If some condition is met, then do this, otherwise do that. So that is the basic structure of if. So in this one, we are going to implement the if else structure. So I mean, I'm going to demonstrate that one. So we have applications of that, but for demonstration, I'll use this example. So it will ask us to implement if else structure like this. So we have to set Rax to 1, then compare it with 1. Of course, if you set it to 1, obviously it will be 1. And if Rax is 1, print Rax is 1. Otherwise, print Rax is not 1. So we'll modify this program to implement this structure. Okay. Like previous, create a new directory, copy and paste. And rename. I renamed it as workshop 3 part 1. So we'll change directory. First desktop, then change directory to workshop 3. So now we are inside this directory and we'll open it using GD. Okay, we'll just edit this program and try to get the required output. So when we are writing a program and when it is executed, the program execution goes from top to bottom. That means this line is executed first, then this line is executed, then this line is executed. Likewise, it executes sequentially from top to bottom, right? So I'll just comment this one and write a program executes sequentially from top to bottom. So in the first lecture, I think I showed you a register known as instruction pointer, right? That is known as IP. So if I have that one, this one. So there were several registers. These were the general purpose registers, and there is a special purpose register. So this is the only general purpose registers. All these register types are known as special purpose registers. Why that is called special purpose? These registers are having a special purpose. And this, so EAX, EBX is the 32-bit version of RAX, RBX, RCX, RCX, RDX, all. So there is a small mistake. It should be ECX. So these are called general purpose registers, and there is a special purpose register known as instruction pointer (IP). The 32-bit version is known as EIP. The 64-bit version is known as RIP. RIP, not the death. It is 64-bit is known as RIP. So the RIP or the EIP in 32-bit, I'll say it as RIP, EIP. EIP contains the address of the next instruction. Address of the next instruction to be executed. So what does that mean? That means, for example, assume that this instruction is being executed at this moment. When this is executed, this instruction pointer, I'll just say it is instruction pointer. Instruction pointer contains the address of the next instruction to be executed. So when this is executed, the instruction pointer has the address of this instruction. That means if you visualize I can explain this one more using the list file. So in the list file, I told you, so if we are going to execute this instruction, for example, the address is 0. So this is when this machine language instruction is executed, the instruction pointer, what is in the instruction pointer or the EIP is nothing but this one. Instruction pointer has stored this one as the address. Then what will happen is when this instruction has finished executing, then this is the address in the instruction pointer. Then this instruction, this one, will be executed. When this is executed, the instruction pointer EIP will have this address, and likewise one after the another. When this is executed, this one will be stored in the instruction pointer. Likewise, this is the natural flow of the program, but the programmer can change this natural flow of the program. So this one, program execution flow, program execution flow is known as control flow. That is the way which is program is executed. So if you have specifically changed the sequential flow and gone to another one, it is still the control flow. Control flow is the way this program is flown, execution is done. So since the time is 9:26, I'll stop from this moment, and we'll continue this jump statements and program control flow, how to change the control flow from sequential way to the another, and how to implement if else, and how to create loops, etc. We'll discuss next week, right? So if you have any questions, you can ask me now. If you don't have, you can leave for the next meeting.